Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to Adobe Live. I'm your host, Fabiola Lara, and today on the stream, we're joined once again by Illustrator and Animator Storm Stewart for part 2 of her stream. I'm so excited to get to animating today, Storm. Are you ready for today? How are you feeling?
I am so ready. I even was in here earlier this morning, just refining things and making sure everything was slightly less messy than I usually work, just for you guys.
Perfect. Now, before we get started, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our new Adobe Live channel on YouTube to stay up to date on the latest streams and participate in our community and so much more. And remember, if you missed the previous stream, don't stress it. You can view the replay on Behance or YouTube. Make sure you check out the illustration live stream with Danny Poland as she shows you how to sketch and vectorize your illustrations to create movement in your art. All right, Storm, let's take a moment to see who's in the chat. We have Gareth, we have Steve, we have Anika, we have Pixie Pew, we have Mwendwa. We have so many people that are excited for your stream today, Storm. So are you ready to reintroduce yourself and tell us what we're up to today?
Yes, thank you so much. Hello again, guys, for anyone that wasn't here yesterday. My name is Storm Stewart and I'm a digital creative based in London. I do illustration and animation, which is what we're going to be doing today. Yesterday, we put together a cauldron because it's October and it's the spooky season and it just seemed right. And today we are going to animate said cauldron, and hopefully by the end of the stream, we should have a nice looping animation.
I'm sure we will. I'm so excited. I know you're such a pro. I want to give a little reminder to everyone in the chat. If you have any questions for Stormy while we're working today, drop them in the chat and we'll be sure that she gets to them. Okay. I see you already have the project pulled up here. I'm already excited by what I see. Walk me through it because, I'm an After Effects newbie. I'm sure there's some After Effects newbies in the stream. So give me a lay of the land here.
So, yeah, what I did yesterday, if you guys remember, we started exporting all of the images into separate assets and as PNGs with the intention of importing them into After Effects for me to animate them there. Now, this is the benefit of me messing around with it this morning. I imported them this morning just to have a look to make sure nothing was broken, and something was broken. So I decided, basically, the PNGs, while they're great most of the time, I had exported them at too low a size. So by the time I put them in here, it was just fuzzy. And I was thinking, well, how am I going to fix this? And I mentioned yesterday that Illustrator, well, a lot of the Adobe products have a dynamic link. So I'm actually able to show you a little bit what that looks like today. So I'm able to import the Illustrator file directly into After Effects and kind of work with it from there.
Okay.
Now, so the benefit of having that.
How did you import each one as like the item.ai? Did you have to separate everything? I'm just curious here because this is a common problem for me.
This is a very good question, actually. Let me go back into the Illustrator file just as a quick refresher so I can show you guys what that looks like. You remember we spoke briefly about best practices and how I don't often do them, and you should definitely do as I say, not as I do, in terms of layering and organizing your your files. Well, as one of the other bits of housekeeping I did was went back into the Illustrator file as soon as it opens.
I can't wait to see this because this is something that I'm always like doing differently every single time I animate in After Effects. And I know that you're about to show me kind of like the most efficient way to do it so I don't have to, mess around with it ever again. Okay, yeah, here's where I remember we left off.
Yes, so we left off here and I went back in and just separated every element that I wanted on its own layer. So you can see down here on the right, you've got apple, you've got crab, you've got the bone, and I separated the snake segments into their own bits. These are all the things I want to be able to animate, and basically they just need their own layers.
Okay.
Now, the cool thing that you can do once you go back over to After Effects, if we just start a new composition here so I can walk you through it.
Okay.
If I double click over here, this opens up the import panel. Hopefully you guys can see that. Now, if I head over to the cauldron itself, you can see down here, you've got a couple of different options from the drop down. You've got import it as footage, import it as a composition. And a composition, if you're unfamiliar with After Effects, it's essentially like a folder. It compiles a whole bunch of elements into one place, which can kind of help because After Effects gets messy after a while.
Yeah.
So I import it as a composition and I retain the layer styles because it just makes it easier to keep the sizes the same.
Okay.
And once you do that, it imports it as this composition here. You go in here, you can see all the files are just as the Illustrator file was. Everything has its own layer.
Wonderful. So like a layer equates a layer in After Effects, or are they called layers in After Effects? I'm not sure. Yeah, layer names.
I think they are. They're pretty much layers. And the other benefit of doing it this way that I mentioned yesterday is that they do dynamically update. So if I was to change the color of the apple or change something about one of these files from the original Illustrator file, it will update in real time, which I could probably show you here.
We're taking a risk here, folks.
We're taking a risk.
It's going to pay off big.
So
let's see. Green apple. Oh, I kind of like the green apple. It's like sickly or something.
And then if we go to my composition.
One of these compositions.
Oh, actually, no, it's the... I think if we reload the footage, then it's updated. So that's linked to the Illustrator file. So you don't have to go back in and re-export things. You can kind of just change them on the fly, which is
that is so cool. I really, really like that because sometimes you do change your mind. And imagine you animate a whole thing and you change your mind. You want it to be a green apple. Now you have to start all over. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, so it doesn't affect the animation in any way. So maybe you've animated the whole thing already. You decided whatever. So that's basically why I've decided to go back and import it as a native Illustrator file.
As opposed to the PNGs, which were our initial thought yesterday's. Okay, that's awesome. I feel like you've caught us up to date here with these changes. And I think you made the right choice here because having that dynamic link is really, really handy. And now we all know how to do it. So what do you want to do first here? Because there's a lot of different things going on once you enter After Effects.
Yes, so there's quite a bit of groundwork needed to be done before you really start animating. One of the most important things that you can do, one of the important things that you should do is start setting the anchor points, because when you start moving things, your anchor point is going to determine, well, the anchor where things move from. So for example, if I wanted to rotate this cauldron, if I start doing it now, it's rotating from the middle, but maybe I don't want it to pivot from there. Maybe I want it to pivot from this foot, so I can move the anchor down. This circle is the anchor point. Shortcut key Y, you can click it and drag it. So now if I rotate, it's rotating from this position. So you really want to set your anchor points first before you start moving anything. Because you can't really move it afterwards. Like it will mess up your animation.
It'll mess up everything. Okay, got it. And can you tell me what workspace you're working in? Is this like one that you've set up? Will it look like this when people open it? Do you know?
So there are different default setup. I can show you actually. I made this one. I tend to work in square compositions because it just makes life easier for me. And
yeah,
it works pretty
well.
Because
I see you have a lot of cool windows up, and I'm like, if I open an After Effects, is it gonna look just like this?
Yeah, so I mean, I have one plugin that you won't have natively, but the rest of it is all default.
Cool.
Default windows, but you can change the workspace, which I do from time to time. Mine is set up in the effects workspace, but
okay, cool.
If you head over here, you can go to animation, and there are a whole bunch of preset ones, but you can make your own one to whatever suits your needs better.
Perfect. Okay, but you're working in effects with like specific windows open.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. I just want to know in case I go in there and I'm like, where is the thing, the cool thing that she's using? Okay.
If at any point you don't see something that you want, just head over to window and you should be able to find it down here. unless
Yes.
it's one of those extensions I mentioned. So what I'm going to want to do is kind of set position 1 for
Okay.
everything. I'm not thinking of animating it just yet. I just kind of want to start layering things where they should be, and then I can start worrying about the movement. So I've moved the cauldron to the base. I don't really want it in the middle because I already have such limited movement from there. And the idea with this one was to have the lid be moving up and down. I don't really have much space if I leave it there. So
Yeah,
I'm
you
going
got
to
to
move that down here.
give the lid some room, right?
Absolutely. So I'm going to move that down there and move this down here. You can probably see I've started doing it already. I've started color coding my layers a little bit here, just so at a glance I can see that things are different, because already you can see we've got so many layers working on, and it's only going to increase from here. So naming them, color coding them, anything to make your life a little bit easier. Highly recommend.
You're working very organized. Once you get into After Effects, I can already tell.
you most definitely have to. So let's shy this, or let's hide that. And so one thing I was thinking was what are going to be the combinations in our witch's stew here, because we managed to get like 6 items, and I'm thinking of combinations like are we going for an apple crab soup, or bone of snake, or because I'm going to have to try and fit them all in there. Obviously the sizes that they've come in to, if you remember, because I imported them with the retain layer size, so they're all the same size that they were when I built them. So
but you
that's
can
why they're all
adjust them
different.
once you're in here.
So I'm using a lot of keyboard shortcuts here, but a lot of them are fairly intuitive. S for scale, R for rotate, P for position, so you can move them, and anytime you click on that while you've got the layer selected, the
it'll pop up for that layer.
Yeah, it will come up underneath there. You can kind of see
yeah
there.
Oh, I'm so excited. You're gonna have all of them in there?
No, I'm just
like
thinking
a couple at a time, and then they pop up. What are you thinking?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I'm thinking the lid is going to go up and down, and it's going to change twice, so we have 2 combinations. So I'm thinking probably the first one is
okay, so
these 3 maybe.
Yeah, those 3 look good, but then you'll have 2 red elements together.
2 red elements,
like, because you'll have the apple and the crab together.
Oh goodness, I moved the apple off. I completely.
So maybe you should split those 2 up. That way you don't have like too much red in one.
I didn't even think of that. It's a very good idea.
That's just me. I don't know.
No, I like it. I'm going to do that. Okay, so that's combination 1. So I think just to keep them together, I'm going to drag them up here.
Okay, so you're going to, layer them so that they're near each other.
Yeah, so I know this is group 1. Yeah, exactly. And then I'm going to hide them just so I don't have to worry about it. And then this one. So there are some elements that we didn't bother to build in Illustrator because we can build them natively in After Effects, like the bubbling bubbles and the... Oopsie. I should lock that. Should lock your layers. Don't do that.
We learned nothing from yesterday.
I've learned nothing. This is why I say, do as I say, not as I do, because I'm still not doing the right thing. So
I like
we've got the snake in here, and we want to do the water effect at some point. So once you've built, you've kind of built point 0, you can start setting your anchor points if you have an idea for the movement in mind. So like for the bone, I don't think I'm going to want it in the middle of it. I think I'm probably going to have it wiggle in the cauldron, so I'm going to need its pivot point to be down there. The crab as well, I'm probably going to move that. I don't know that he's going to like shake so much, but if he does, it's going to look weird if he's too high. So
and for the next one, can you tell us how you're moving the anchor point? Are you pressing the keyboard shortcut, or is there a button somewhere?
Yes. So there is a keyboard shortcut for this one. It's Y. So if you see, I've got the default arrow right now. If I hit Y, it turns into a different icon. If you don't remember the keyboard shortcut, have a look up here. It's called the pan behind tool. you can click on that, and that enables you to select the anchor point, and you can kind of move it from there.
Perfect. Oh yeah, I'm wondering where. Okay, you put that one at the bottom. Interesting. I love seeing your mind like quickly make these decisions. It's very intuitive for you.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, a lot of the time you are imagining how this is going before you're going to do it. There is a bit of pre-planning involved, you know.
Yeah. Now you're just making it all come to life.
Exactly. I did add a little shine to this eyeball as well. I thought it needed a little bit extra.
Perfect. Okay.
Nope. Right. So now what I'm thinking.
I'm excited to see this. I'm like, where could this be going, you guys?
How long I want my loop to last. Generally speaking, on social media and anything, you kind of want to... The attention span isn't as long as you might like it to be, so probably like a second or two, maybe 4 seconds might be enough.
Yeah, I know for like uploading videos on Instagram, I think it's like 3 seconds.
Is it 3? My gosh.
For a video, it used to be. Now with Reels, maybe they don't have a limit anymore, but I'm wondering, like, do you, because I know it's going to loop, do you decide the time now, or do you just loop it?
Well, the thing is, I can set a time now, and at any point you have it's quite easy to move the keyframes, and I'll explain to you the difference between the keyframes and things like that as we go on, but you can pretty much drag and drop and amend how fast and how slow things are moving as and when you need to. So this down here is the timeline. So you can kind of see here we've got the timeline, and it's appearing in frames. If I go to the composition settings, you can actually change your frame rate. I'm currently working at 30 frames per second, but there's a whole bunch of presets, 60, 25. I think in the UK we tend to work more with 25. But like it can be personal preference as well. So,
and do you always do like 300 pixels by 300? I'm curious about these things because I know for a lot of people when they're first starting out, it's kind of a mystery. You just kind of like start at whatever size you happen to have made it.
I remember that being one of my biggest questions whenever I come across a new artist. I'm like, what DPI are you working with? Like,
yeah, exactly. So tell us for those at home.
So for me, I think I've just kind of landed on this as a nice round number that I like. It's not too big, it's not too small. My computer can handle it, and it's just a personal preference. Like there is no real right or wrong unless your computer can't handle it, really.
Sweet.
And it's an easy number for me to work with. Generally speaking, if I'm taking this from my computer to Instagram or to make it an emote, having a nice round number makes the math a lot easier, because a lot of icons and things have size restrictions. So maybe it needs to be 112 by 112, and doing the math can sometimes just be easier if you have a rounder number to go from.
True. That's very true. Okay, so you're like, this 300 by 300 works for you. It hasn't done you wrong since.
No.
Perfect. So I would recommend it to everyone at home who's wondering what size they should make their compositions.
Yes. Just start with that and see how you get on. You will find what works best for you, but as a good starting place, I just picked a nice square round number. And again, it's nothing set in stone. If at any point I decide I don't want that, I can come back into my composition settings and say I want this to be oh no, it's locked. Hang on.
Just like that.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
And now it's set for an Instagram video, and I can just change it like that. So it's you can change it on the fly. So I'm thinking we need to start adding water. Maybe what color should the liquid be? I feel like
maybe like
should have two.
Maybe like a something that looks like magical.
Something something you wouldn't want to drink.
Like green or purple. Those are things uncommon, That screams
Yeah.
toxic.
Okay, let's go with that. Let's get a purple liquid. So I've just
Really
selected the
neon-y.
shape tool up
Okay.
here, the ellipse tool. And then once you've done that, you've got your fill and you've got your stroke. So I'm gonna go select a color here.
And you're locking everything else so you don't happen to click on it?
Yeah, because what happens if you have the shape layer selected over another like a pre-existing layer, it can mask it.
Right.
Which is not what I want to do. I want to create its own shape instead. So
that's one way to work smarter.
Yeah.
And not trip yourself up.
Yeah, which I think you guys are noticing that I tend to do that a lot. So every little helps. So what I feel like there's going to be a lot of masking involved because a lot of these, aside from the snake, are going to be half in, half out of the liquid. So
that's true.
We just need to work out where that's going to be.
I'm fascinated here. I'm like, I didn't even realize that yesterday we didn't draw the liquid and we didn't draw the bubbles, which are kind of essential to a cauldron, when you think about it. And now you're adding them in here. I would have, just not having an animator brain, drawn every little thing and then brought it into After Effects and fought with all of it.
I mean, that works totally fine as well, but it gives me a good opportunity to show that you can.
Yeah.
Everything that we've built in Illustrator, you could have done this straight in After Effects as well, but it's a nice workflow as well, and you have a bit more freedom in Illustrator when it comes to creating certain shapes and things like that. So
so that's why you left the simple things for, to build in here. Okay. What are you looking for? Maybe the chat can help you out.
Yeah, I think I want to mask it. I might just create a general shape for now, and I will use that to... Ooh, there we go. See, I've created it, and as soon as I've drawn on this layer, it created a mask. So I'm not sure if I want the mask within its layer or if I want to like alpha invert it out of it, but for now we'll just leave it like that and I can come back to it, but at least visually it means I've got that to work with. What happens actually if I start moving the rotation? So this is why I didn't want that on the same layer, because it rotates everything including the mask, which isn't really what I want. So
right, because the effect that you want is it poking out of the water, like the water stays still.
So I'm just going to create another shape, and then with that layer, need to name this bone mask because we're already starting to creep up. We're already getting it
confused.
And then so you can see this toggle switches button at the bottom because you have quite a few different settings here, which not all of them are relevant to us today, but if you toggle the switches you can change this, which is your track map. I always forget which one it is. Nope, it's... Oh, wait, it's the wrong one. There we go. So for the bone, the cauldron, the bone at the bottom, I need to alpha invert matte, which takes the layer above it and turns it into a mask. So now, if I rotate it, it's still...
Wow, that's so cool. Okay, so you have the bone cauldron, which is the layer of the bone that you drew. Yeah. And then on top of that, you have that shape that you haven't actually done anything to that shape. You changed the track mat to the bone. Okay, cool.
Absolutely. So I'm going to want to do that to the crab as well, which I can probably just duplicate this because it's already been built and I can kind of tweak it later. So I've just used Control D to duplicate it quickly. And I've dragged it below.
Fascinating. Okay.
Again, on the crab layer, so you have to set the track mat on the layer that is not the mask. It's affected by the layer above it. So I have done that, but I also forgot to move this. There we go.
Nice. I feel like you should have that. Yes, the claws sticking up. Oh my gosh, perfect.
Yeah. So we'll do that, but we're gonna add some effects to it as well because it's not very water-like, is it? We need some
Right.
ripples in there, but we don't want to start messing with effects too early. We just want to kind of set the groundwork, set the foundation, because it's not really something you want to have to go and find once you
what
really
did
get into
you
it.
what was that anchor point that you moved? Was that the crab's anchor point or the mask's anchor point?
I just moved the mask anchor point just in case, because some of the effects center around the anchor points, and if I'm adding a ripple, if the ripple's all the way up there, it may not work. But for now, I'm just moving it just to clean things up.
Keep things tidy. Perfect.
Yeah. I think the snake is fine because we kind of built it that way. We might...
you might want a little bit of a ripple.
Yeah.
On the edges.
I think so.
Because it might look like it's floating compared to the other icons that are like synced in.
Good point. Another thing we're going to do actually, because I'm not entirely certain about the positioning, I'm going to parent the layers to each other. So when I move one, it moves the other. So this here, this pick whip, if you click and drag it, it becomes the child. Actually, I want to parent this. So whoops, wrong one. So I click that, and
so now the mask is pick whipped to
oh, hold on. Oh, I didn't click it again. I clicked the wrong one. There we go.
Okay. So the bone is pick whipped to the mask.
There it is. Oh. Yes.
Okay. There's a lot going on here. We have a lot of layers already.
There is a lot of layers already. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Okay.
Right. So you pick whip the layer
mask.
This little squiggle here. Whatever you attach it to is its parent, if you want to think of it that way. That's the one it's going to follow. So that's what it's attached to. So that's what I did there. And
so mask,
we'll do the same for this.
Pick whip to the item.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
We're going to do a similar thing to the lid and to other elements, because not only does it, parent the position, but it can parent things like the scale, the rotation. So everything moves when it moves.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay. I want to remind everyone in the chat, if you have any questions on After Effects and these things that Stormy's showing us, drop your questions in the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Behance. The questions will come to us so we can answer them. There's a lot happening here, and Stormy's showing us a lot of really cool tips and tricks. So if you miss anything or you need a little clarification, don't be afraid to chime in and ask while Stormy works here. Ooh, okay. Look at all these masks just coming. Now that you got it sorted out, you're like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and this is why it becomes so important to just keep an eye on how many layers you have, because it's going to get quite messy. Yeah. So I think this is fine for now. I'm probably going to unparent this crab one. I should rename this to crab mask. Just because I don't like its angle, and I don't want to end up accidentally moving the whole thing. So just going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So this section's done, but also I'm not entirely sold on this, and I need now this is a good thing that we did this in Illustrator, because I might want to add this circle as a separate icon, just so I have something to mask this water out with. I might do that. Let's have a look.
Okay. How'd you get that background too? I mean, now I'm distracting you, but I feel like that was that in After Effects?
Yeah, so this is my default background. When you make a new composition, you can choose the background color. I just can't work with white.
Perfect.
It's
Okay.
too bright for me. And I think I heard somewhere that you shouldn't really work on bright white when you're working with color anyway. It can be a little bit distorting.
It's true because your perception of color gets twisted.
That's the one. Oh, hang on. Where is the snake mask? Oh, I didn't move the mask. That's why. See, I've already lost it. There we go.
Do.
Snake mask. Alrighty. Okay. And then the remote mask. There, that's better.
Okay.
So in order to mask you out, yeah, I'm going to need this circle that we made. I think that's going to...
I don't know what you're
so
what is it that you're trying to sort out?
So what I'm thinking right now is that this is overspilling, so I kind of wanted to just grab the exact shape, so I'm not having to do any guesswork. For this, we might be able to just tidy that up in the end. So for now, we'll keep this as is.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be fun to have a different color. You mentioned purple, and then we'll have a green
like a neon green, you know, like toxic green, hazardous green.
For the second bunch. So I'm gonna hide all these for now, just so I can focus on... Wow, we've already got 15 layers. Look at that.
It happened fast.
So we were saying neon green. Is that neon enough? Is that bright enough?
That's pretty neon-y, yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that. And then we'll place these guys in this one.
Okay.
So let's lock that and set the position for these guys here.
And now you're gonna add the masks to make it look like they're submerged into that neon liquid. Okay.
So first we start off by creating the shape, layer it because I'm going to lose it otherwise, and then we drag it on top of the eyeball layer. Change the track matte to alpha invert. So now the eyeball is just being masked by that shape. So I don't have to worry about that. I can lock that and move on to the snail. I think him being
like
there, there looks good to me. So I'll just click off the layer so it doesn't accidentally mask itself. I can have it this wide. Name the layer. So to name the layer, you can basically right click, and down here you can see the option to rename, but I am just hitting return, and that opens up the option to rename it. Snail mask.
Oh, we have a good question here from Stony Braswell. If you went in Illustrator and removed the edges on the snake, you wouldn't have to mask those edges, right? Question mark.
True, but that's not necessarily the problem that I'm having, because the edges are fine, but I need to animate a wave with it, and that's what having the mask there enables me to do.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So having that mask, because you're going to add effects to that mask that are going to simulate that wave, which we want from the bubbling cauldron. So, you know, it's not that simple, but you're right in that thought process.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. And that's why like someone who animates a lot would know that, but otherwise, if you're a simple illustrator, no, I'm kidding. If you're an illustrator, you wouldn't necessarily connect those dots until halfway through the animation.
I mean, even for us, sometimes it is a lot more trial and error than I'd like to admit. I will start with something and then realize that's moving a little bit too fast, or why is that so jerky? And, you know, as I mentioned yesterday, sometimes I've just done too much, and you kind of need to just bring it back and reevaluate. And
and I'm sure there's a million different ways to also achieve similar effects. So then it comes down to like personal preference, workflow preference, like you like to build like the cauldron soup and bubbles in After Effects. Someone might want to build them in Illustrator. So
yeah,
there's lots of
and
ways
it's all good, whichever way you want to do it. Totally fine as well. So
I can't believe how much this is coming to life. I really like the green soup.
I like it too. So you can kind of see what the idea is. It's going to go down and it's going to go up, which is a little bit boring, which is why we've got the little extra elements. We've got the little bubbles in the cauldron. We're going to have things sort of waving a little bit. And I kind of want to add a squash and stretch to the cauldron, which I don't know if I would call it a technical term. It's very much an animation term. If you have seen, I don't know, like any 2D, any animation actually, where characters kind of exaggerate their movement, whether it's a bounce or like a very upbeat sort of walk cycle, there is a certain amount of squash and stretch that just exaggerates and adds a lot of life to things. So
so when it goes down, you're thinking that's when it would happen?
When the lid hits the pot, so it hits, and as a reaction it kind of squashes down, and then it comes back up and it sort of squashes down.
Ooh.
And that's what I'm thinking.
Those are the little things that make it feel even more like smooth.
Yes.
Instead of stiff. Okay, I like the sound of that. Hopefully we get to it. We'll see.
So I think what might be good to do first is get the objects in the soup to kind of wobble, because that's going to be the easiest to do, easiest to loop, and we can kind of get that out of the way and then work on timing everything else. So since we're on the green liquid first, let's start with that. I feel like the eye should maybe bob and maybe wave slightly. We're going to do very, very basic scripting with this one. If I can find the eyeball, there it is. I've already lost it, guys. I named these things.
There's a lot happening. We have a lot of colors too. It's with the two different types of soup going on. It's a lot to handle. Anyone would get a little lost.
Thank you. I feel
cooking
so much
two
better.
soups at a time.
So I'm just zooming in a little bit to my timeline here. You can kind of see it's separated in blocks of 5 frames at a time. I tend to work with 10 frames, 10 frame keyframe, 10 frame. It's just a nice round number, and then you can kind of move it from there to see what you like. The composition that I have right now, the entire timeline lasts for I think 10 seconds, but we really don't need to see all of that just yet. So just to highlight the first second of animation, I'm dragging the playhead over to the 1 frame here, and then I'm hitting N. B is for the start, N is for the end. So that's how you move these two. When you're previewing your sequence, that's what it's going to play from. Perfect. So I can play from here. So let's start with making it bob up and down. So I've hit P to open up the position. And I'm going to hit the stopwatch. Hitting the stopwatch starts keyframing, basically. You can't move things without hitting it. It's not going to animate between different positions. Once you've hit that, this diamond appears. That's
Magical
a keyframe.
Diamond. Perfect.
Magical diamonds.
That's the sign that you've added your first keyframe.
Exactly. Now there are 2 ways that you can add another keyframe. You can either move along the timeline wherever you want and then hit this other diamond that comes up after you've selected the stopwatch, and that adds another. Or if you move to another place and then you move that property, it moves it automatically. So if I show you, then it's done that.
Nice. So, I like that because I'm a visual person, so I feel like moving it like that makes a lot more sense to me.
So I just want it to go up and down. Just a simple up and down. It sounds quite simple, but there's going to be a lot of that going on. So I think once it's all stacked up, it's going to look quite interesting. So I can also copy and paste, Control C, Control V. Perfect. And I've got that.
Oh my gosh. And then we have our first
first loop.
Yes.
I'm going to, what did I say? This is 30 frames. So I'm going to go to the halfway point here just for now. Where is 15? There it is. If you have a look over here, you can also see exactly what you're working with. So I'm on frame 15, 30 frames per second if you need that. So I'm just going to hit space to RAM preview and have a look and see what it's doing. Yeah,
So
that kind of works.
So cute.
It's a little too uniform. So to fix that, what I'm going to do is add an easy ease. So the shortcut for that is F9, but you can also hover over the keyframe and go to the keyframe assistant, and you can ease in, ease out, and that changes the velocity in which whatever property you're animating is moving in. So I've hit F9 and you can see it's kind of changed to this like this hourglass figure, but look what it does to the movement of the animation. So now instead of just being it's kind of smoothed it out, which is, it looks a little bit better. And by the way,
it's subtle, but I think there is a big difference if you pay close attention, and it looks more natural.
Yes.
Right.
Also, you definitely want to be making funny noises when you're animating. I think it's probably the weirdest noises I get are from animating. You are constantly acting things out and trying to emote things in animation. I remember when I was studying at uni, we all had mirrors and things like that to act out sequences and to like make funny faces and things like that, because you have to become an actor yourself. You're timing things out, you're recording yourself, you're feeling things out. So
that's true.
Be afraid to feel a little silly.
Mm-hmm.
Be a little silly, it's fun.
I mean, I'm over here giving visual examples with my hands of what's going on, so I get it.
So I'm onto the rotation now. So I've just hit R. I feel like it should kind of wiggle left and right, but this is also why I've moved the anchor point. So we can see actually if maybe the anchor point's not in quite the right position for what I need, but I've hit U, which is also really another useful shortcut because it just brings up the things, the positions, all the elements that have already got keyframes in them. So rather than having things like scale and other things that you haven't moved, this just shows the properties that have keyframes on them.
Okay.
Which can be useful if you're trying to match things up. So I'm just gonna move it in and then kind of copy and paste the first frame so it loops at that point. I'm gonna ease. So there we go. It's kind of wobbling.
Gorgeous bobble wobble. It's perfect.
So we're gonna do that for the rest of them pretty much, and that was pretty simple. We've only moved two properties, the position and the rotation. You can kind of see why we started mapping this out beforehand. I'm actually wondering if it's going to be better to move this anchor point here into the middle. So I'm just going to quickly do that and have a look. And actually, I think I prefer.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
It's less dramatic that way.
So we'll quickly do that over here as well. So same thing again. We're moving the apple. So P for position. At the beginning, I'm gonna hit the stopwatch.
And you can't copy and paste from the eyeball, right? Because the positions are different. They're for the eyeball.
Yeah. Got it. You can copy some things like the rotation, that's fine, but the position, because it's mapped to its anchor point, it would move the apple
right on top of the eyeball.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Oh, but I'd love to see that for the rotation, if it works for the rotation.
It does.
Cool. All right, let's do this. Ooh, okay.
We'll do that. Go
gorgeous.
Down and then up. Copy, paste. Do I eat? Ooh, oops. Hang on. Ease. There we go.
Okay, yes.
So that's fine. So let's go and show you how the rotation copy works. So once you've clicked the layer, you can Control C, go into the other layer, Control V, and that's completely copy and pasted as well. So that's so all cool. Done.
I love that because, I mean, obviously you can't do it with every single property, but even the ones that you can get away with it, it does feel like you are like a wizard. It's like adding movement with absolutely just one keyboard shortcut, one Command V, and you're animating.
Yes. I think I might tweak it ever so slightly.
It's a bit aggressive.
Just,
It's dunking in a little too much.
yeah. Plus, we're going to tweak it in a little bit, but everything is moving at the same time. But that's fine for now because we'll change the positions of everything afterwards. But we don't want everything moving at the same time because that's just a little
Too organized.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's like synchronized swimming. It's cool, but it's not the effect we're going for.
exactly. I mean, it's a witch's cauldron, so you know, stranger things have happened, I'm sure. But up and then down. So we'll bring this back up a little bit. By the way, these two different numbers here. The one on the left is your X value. The one on the right is your Y value. Easiest way that I think my sister taught me how to remember it is Y to the sky. Because I always forgot which one was left and right, and which one was up and down. So Y to the sky. So Y is your up and down value. X is your left and right value.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I always have to like think of a graph, and I'm just like, why am I doing this? You know, I'm not trying to be a mathematician or anything. But Y to the sky is much handier. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna reverse these quickly.
Oh. And that's the cool thing, by adding that negative or a plus sign, it automatically inverts, right? So +5 and -5 are opposite sides of each other, which is much better than having to calculate the degrees yourself.
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit more math than I was expecting in some of the animation, but it makes it easier just so you're not guessing. You say you want to move something 10 pixels to one side or rotate it a certain amount of degrees, you can just put in that number and you don't have to worry about it. You know it's even here, you know it's even there, which is really helpful. So we'll probably start you off a little bit lower. Let's set the keyframe.
Okay.
Actually, I need to see where my keyframes are here. I can just move them. You're not gonna move too much. You're just gonna do a little.
Just a slight reveal.
Just a little, yeah. Yeah.
Wow, cool. Yeah, and now you can see that snail's moving differently than the other two items.
Yes. Right. So again, I don't feel like I want you to move too much. So, oh, that is too much.
That's quite a bit.
Let's go -30. Yeah, maybe. The cool thing is you can just preview it. If you don't like it, just go back and change it. It's not permanent. You can do quite a bit of trial and error. But see, there is something wrong here because I didn't move the anchor point for this guy. So now he's wiggling from here, which doesn't really make too much sense. I think I would rather him wiggle. Point? Let's have a look. His anchor point's
right there.
Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is solo him out. I need to get rid of your track mat. I'm going to.
You might have to put it lower or something, right?
Yeah. Now, normally you won't be able to just move it mid-animation because what happens if you move it, if I show you mid-animation, you can see on the position, it's added an extra keyframe and now everything's kind of messed up. You really want to do this beforehand. I'm cheating ever so slightly here with my plugin, but this is why I say take your time, set up your
you know, that's happened to me a million times before, and I've had to just like delete it and re-import it because I'm like, I don't know what's happening anymore.
Yeah, it can be like there's quite a bit of prep work, so I mean it happens as well. Like
that's why you have to be. You have to be like methodical so you don't miss things like that.
Yes.
You want to make everything go as smoothly as possible. That is.
I've just noticed something's poking out at the bottom there. What is that? I think that's the bottom of the snail. It is! Okay, that means my mask is not big enough. So we can just quickly go in there and just and drag it down. I've moved the anchor point so only the bottom moves now. And now we can't see the base of his tail, hopefully. Yes, okay, good.
Yep. Full coverage now.
Full coverage. We need a modest snail. Okay, so we've got these guys done. And let's move these guys. Oh, I have made visual mask. There we go. That's why that wasn't working. All right, so before we start moving things like the bones and stuff, because I've parented the mask to them, I'm going to have to remove that, because obviously if I start rotating things, the mask is going to move as well. So just
Right,
make
and
sure
we don't
you
want
go
the
back.
masks to move right now. Okay.
Not right now, no. So just quickly, I'm going to hop through, add my keyframes.
We have a question here, Storm. The question comes from Joshua Merrill, who says, can you parent that? I'm not sure what that is referring to. Can you parent that to a null and then move the null without ruining the animation? Maybe the anchor point?
You can parent things. Sometimes I do that as a workaround if I've just gotten too far in the movement, and just moving something else will mess everything up. So that is a viable option as well, but that's not something you want to rely too heavily on. You kind of want to get it right as soon as possible rather than have to fix it later. Because the more things and more layers you're adding. But you can, to answer your question simply, yes, that is an option you can do as well.
There you go. But keeping your layers at a minimum is great, because as things get more complex, you're just going to have a lighter animation. So, you know, everything's a trade-off.
Yes. So
and now we're working on this bone. It's looking amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing, cute little bone in a stew. Okay.
I wonder what it tastes like. I don't think it's going to be very
disgusting.
tasty. Probably disgusting. Right, we've got that done. Oh, hello. There's
like another mask with it.
Yeah.
The snake's mask might be tied to it. Yeah, look, it says 212 crab.
Well, you're not supposed to be there, so let's remove that. There we go.
There. Okay.
I feel like I want you more over... I'm running out of space. This snake is taking up a lot of space. We're going to have to move that when we get to it, but that's fine for now. We'll remove the parent. And then let's start... Actually, where do I want you to rotate from? Is there okay? Maybe at the bottom? Is there?
That's
I think maybe
good.
there.
Yeah.
I think that's a good position. So let's set you from there. Move here. The bone's going left, so let's go to the right. And then is that 0? It is a 0, so back to 0.
Sweet. Okay.
And then
and the key to looping is to just make sure that your start position or your start rotation or your start whatever that characteristic is the same as the end one.
Yes.
For anyone who's like, how does she know what to... She's keyframing only the middle and not the end or the beginning. That's why. The beginning and the end are the same.
We're quite lucky in this instance because the animation is fairly simple, but as the more complicated it gets, you do have to plan, like, where is it looping from? You know, like you see on TikTok and some videos, people just kind of loop back seamlessly. Like, the thought process that goes in there, I'm like, how did you do that?
Yeah, when videos perfectly loop, they're like, and that's why, and then the video starts over again. That's typically the line I hear.
Right?
And that's why
exactly.
You should buy this printer or whatever it is. They're always selling me something. Okay.
I'm just gonna reposition the snake parts because I feel he's a little bit too... He's taking up a bit too much space.
Yeah, you can compress him. A lot of him can be underneath.
Yeah.
Snakes are organic like that.
I'm just going to mask you temporarily so I can move you over here. And I think maybe rotate you a little bit this way. Yeah, I like that a lot better. That's cool. Okay, so we can fix the mask now. We can mask the rest of them as well. Let's rotate this. That looks good to me. Yeah. All right. And then Is this? Oh, no, it's your layer. There we go.
All these
Right.
elements are so much to keep track of, but I can't wait to see all these little animations come together. I feel like I know where you're going, and I'm just like pumped to see this happen.
I think that's one of the things I love the most about animation. It can feel like a little bit, there's a lot going on, granted, but seeing everything moving once it's all finished is so, oh, I've animated the mask layer. I didn't want to do that.
It's so satisfying,
It's so satisfying.
And it's very methodical, which I think kind of is a bit mesmerizing. Like when you're creating in Illustrator or you're creating in Photoshop, when you're doing something that's like a drawing, you're very like it's like a different sort of creativity, because in here you're very much thinking about the timing. It's like a lot more math is involved, but because of that, it's a bit more straightforward, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can kind of get in the zone. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I love it. I'm so impressed by that masking trick because I feel like it really adds another element of like just really making it feel grounded.
Yeah, there's a lot more tricks that I'm hoping we can get into today that just kind of add to the illusion. We're still going to be tweaking the movement. We're still going to be adding little flourishes. So I'm just speeding through this because you guys have seen the whole process of rotating and moving the position for now. So I'm just going to
doing it for each little icon.
Yes.
While Stormy's working on that ever so diligently, if you're tuning in on YouTube or Behance, thanks for being here. Thanks for being with us. Be sure to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll be sure that Stormy has a chance to answer them for you. Plus, don't forget to hit subscribe to our Adobe Live channel if you're watching over on YouTube. That way you never miss a stream and you can be a part of our amazing community over here. You know, so if you just joined us, that's what we're up to. And we're here with Storm Stewart in After Effects, making a beautiful, disgusting, bubbly cauldron.
Beautiful, disgusting. Oh my goodness. I love the description of that. Well, it doesn't have to, can make it cute.
It's cute and gross. Cute and gross is the words I should have used.
It's a USP, like not many people have that.
Okay, wonderful. Are all the elements done?
Nearly. We've just got the middle segment.
Okay.
To do. How are we doing for time? Am I still okay?
You're doing amazing. We're about an hour in, so we have an hour left of this stream, and I feel like you're going to be assembling this. Like, you already have a vision, so I feel like a lot of the guesswork is removed. I'm excited. We're gonna get there. Don't you worry, Stormy. I'm not worried.
Famous last words. No, it's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be totally fine. This is amazing. Okay, so you're working on that middle section. While you're working on that, I wanted to ask you, so I know you said you went to school for animation. You know, do you feel like you can be a self-taught animator? Do you feel like going to school is the right move? What's your perspective on that now that you've been in the industry?
Oh my goodness, unpopular opinion time.
We don't have to go there if you don't want.
No. I think it's a great discussion topic. I do not believe you have to go to uni or an official institution to learn what I know how to do now.
Because we can learn from you here instead.
Well, that too, but YouTube wasn't really a thing. I'm aging myself now. YouTube wasn't really a thing when it was new anyway when I was starting out at uni. But most of what I've learned, even the new things that I've learned now, I've picked up from YouTube.
There you go.
And it's kind of incredible the amount of resources, free or cheap resources, that are at people's disposal now if you just know where to look. So like there is definitely a certain amount of do I want to say prestige that some people feel when they come from certain universities, but it doesn't mean
I mean, it's true across the
anything.
industry. I mean, across every industry, I feel like if you go to the right school, there's a level of prestige. And, I'm sure it's nice too when you go to school that you have a community of other people who are studying the same thing. You also have a built-in network for when you
Yeah,
graduate to reach out to. So those are two things that you can't just learn in a class. You really have to attend some sort of institution, or if you're going to do it on your own, you really have to immerse yourself in the community to be able to do that. While
absolutely.
if you go to an institution, it's kind of a part of it. So that's, I think, a big differentiator. But like you said, anyone can teach themselves.
And it
with the
really
right ambition.
depends. Yeah, it depends on the type of learner you are. Like, I very much enjoy going into places to learn. I like the class setting. I like being able
Yeah,
to
me
go
too.
and talk to people. And if I have a problem, then be able to go up to the tutor and be like, "Hey, come look at this. Come
Yeah,
help me," without having to like search on Google the specific
like
keywords
right,
to find the
exact.
answer.
Yes, that can be so tough.
So there are pros and cons, and as you say, there is a community element that really can't
Oh, I like that. That is so satisfying.
can't overstate how important that is. Like, a lot of my first industry contacts came because my employers had come to my university to see what we were doing. Like, a lot of my industry contacts came from there, which doesn't mean that
Yeah.
you can't make them if you're not there, but there is a benefit from, the people that I used to work with that helped me get my foot in the door and things like that. So,
Yeah,
I don't think you need to. It can't hurt though.
exactly. I feel the exact same way. Where like, as long as you're clear about the differences and why you're going into it, it's all up to you. It could be beneficial. That looks amazing. I really like it.
Thank
I
you. All right,
really,
it's
really like that. Okay.
quite basic at the moment, but we're gonna add some extra bits to it. So now what we need to do is have it bounce up, bounce down, and as it does that, it changes. So we're probably going to have this looping quite a little bit. So
Okay.
I don't have to worry about this. I think what I'm gonna want to do is change the speed of the things inside of it, but we can worry about that a little bit later. For now, this is where the math comes in.
I'm curious. I'm like, what math
to...
are you mathing right now? I'm a little bit. I'm just like in awe watching you do this.
So I'm probably going to move all of the keyframes forward a little bit, because if I am at the very beginning of the timeline, then I don't really have much wiggle room from the front. So I'm gonna grab all
everything.
of these keyframes and just kind of.
And those are just the items, or yeah,
they're just the keyframes that I've been animating. So I'm gonna move it forward to this one, so you can just click and drag, and that all stays the same. You don't have to worry about that. That's all still fine.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is add what's called a loop out. So if you hold down the Alt key and click hold of the stopwatch, it opens up this element where you can start typing codes in. So I'm going to start typing loop, and then you can fill it in here with loop out. Now what that does, it means that past this point, it's going to go. Oh, hang on. Loop out.
It's getting real technical in here.
Oh, that's why, because it's hidden.
What's hidden? Okay.
My other layer. These are all hidden. I forgot to show you the thing that was looping. That would help, wouldn't it? There we go.
I agree.
Right. So this one, and
I'm
this
following.
one. There we go.
Following along with you here. Okay. So now you have the green soup. Okay.
So now, even though there's no more keyframes, the apple is still moving up and down. And that's because I've added this script in here. So it loops from this position out.
Okay. And that's
so
just the position characteristic, right?
But you can do the same thing for anything pretty much. So I can
Okay.
add that onto here. So that continues. So now I don't have to worry about anything but these first 3 frames.
So
which
you
is
don't have
useful.
and the benefit to this is that you don't have to keyframe for the entire duration of your animation,
Yes, exactly.
which is extremely helpful.
What I'm going to do is a bit of cleanup here because I keep clicking on things that I don't want to. So I'm going to what's called shy away some unnecessary layers so I don't accidentally click on them.
Okay.
So this little icon here, this little guy peeking over the shoulder, the top of the thing, is your shy icon. If you click it, then whatever that layer is disappears. You haven't deleted it.
Cool.
It just gets rid of it from view. If you want to see it again, you just click up here and it comes back.
Oh, that's nice. I did not know about that. That's just like a really nice workflow option. Because right now we're working with like the first set, and then we have the second set. Are you going to hide it by sets, or are you going to hide it?
Actually, I'm going to do those by groups eventually. But
got it.
For now, while we're still refining and building, so you can just kind of copy and paste these down here as well. You have to click Alt and then click on the stopwatch specifically to start activating the script. But there are lots of different scripts in
it's just one of many.
Yeah.
And that little shy guy little trick is blowing people's minds out here. Joshua says that is the kind of AE trick or treat I was waiting for.
Hey.
So, those little things to you, I feel like are second nature. And to folks who are still working on their After Effects skills, it's like, oh my gosh, who knew? It's so simple. But if you don't know, you don't know.
Exactly. I'm glad I could share something new. So now that loops. So wonderful. I'm probably going to, let's test out this sort of speed because it's probably going to be a bit too fast, I reckon, but we'll see what it's like for now. So probably going to start. I'm wondering, do I want to just go up and down, or do I want the pot to do this, the lid to do this? It'd be more interesting if it tilts to the side or just goes up and down. I feel like,
I don't know. I feel like up and down is good enough, but
let's go up and down then. I mean, it's easy enough to add the extra rotation in later if we want to, so long as I set the anchor point properly. Yeah, okay, there we go. So let's just go up and down for now. Okay. So we'll start here.
The only other animation I could think of was like it shaking up, like, oh. Making the noise.
See, this is what happens. You have to start acting these things out.
Like a little ghostly little lid. I hope everyone at home is acting out as well.
So up and then down. It's not gonna. I think that's gonna be quite a quick movement. So like I'm acting it out in my mind because I don't want it to be too long. I really.
The timing is essential here. But everything's also flexible, so don't worry.
Yeah.
If you're playing with this at home, you can, don't stress out. Okay.
So this is going to be way too equal right now, but it gives me a good idea of where to go from here. So.
Okay.
I kind of want it to
do a little more.
I want it to speed up on the way down. So the way that we do that is with the graph editor. Now the graph editor used to confuse the heck out of me when I first started as an animator. So you click on this icon here and this shows you the graph editor. What we're looking at here is the velocity. You can just double check, set the the value to show speed. This shows the velocity in which something is moving. So you can kind of see now that I've added an easy ease, it's going up and down fairly evenly. But if I grab this handle and drag it over here, watch what happens. So now it slows
dropping
into
down.
Instead of it just going at an even pace, now it's speeding into it, which is a little bit more interesting.
It's snapping a bit.
Yeah.
I like that.
So we'll grab another bit, and sometimes you just got to play around with it
Just
to
gotta
see.
see how the effect goes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want that so much. Maybe to.
It's punchy that way. If you're then gonna
Yeah.
add that
The bounce.
the bounce, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so I like that sort of movement a lot more than this sort of robotic up and down. If something's looking a little bit too boring, for lack of a better word, mess with the speed of the keyframe editor, and chances are that'll help a little bit.
That'll help out. I think that's a really good tip, because sometimes when you're just starting off animating, you just want everything to be so tidy because you're caught up in the math. You know, you're like -10, +10, make sure everything's an even amount of keyframes and all of that. But then opening that graph editor really helps you just so suddenly tweak it so you can add a little bit more movement as opposed to it feeling like it was programmed.
Yes. So now it's going up and down at that point, but I need it to repeat so we can come back to our first frame.
Right.
So this lasts 1 second, so we've got that number to work with. We know at every second it's going to loop back to the beginning. So I can add another one of you here, maybe. How long do we want this on screen for? Like maybe 2 seconds.
Okay.
So it comes up, and then the next one is 1, 2. Then from here, my idea is that it starts looping again from this point. So from here, I add our next, well, we add our code in, and it should, yeah, loop from there. So it waits for 2 seconds and then it loops again.
That's nice. I thought you were just gonna copy and paste those positions.
No, I mean, a lot of it can be substituted with scripting. Not all the time, but sometimes.
That's really handy, because then, you know, you can move that position easily, I assume.
Yeah.
Like you can move where that starts.
And then I think if we have the idea that that's going to be
wonderful.
Maybe from here. So we'll set that point.
There's a lot more brain RAM required here for this project. As you're working it out and trying to make the math all work. And I don't want to interrupt you, because this is important stuff. We all want to know what's going on up there. Okay.
No, please ask away, because it is so easy to get into the flow of it. So the next obvious thing that I need to do is when the lid comes up, it's the next concoction visible. So just to make
the other ones,
yeah. So instead of hiding them, actually, what I'm going to do is make a composition out of this first lot. So what I can do is just hide it and then make it reappear, but as a group. So I'm going to select all of these layers. I might actually need to unhide the masks as well.
I'm paying attention carefully here, because I want to make sure I understand this magic here. Because you said a composition is like a folder.
Yeah, basically. You're making a group out of things, and you can affect groups in similar ways, but it kind of just helps to keep the timeline clean. So what I did here, my shortcut key was Control-Shift-and-C, but of course you can also come back here and pre-compose. Does the same thing. And I would probably suggest you name them. So what that's done is, instead of it being the 5 or 6 layers, it's now changed its icon. So if I double click into it, they are all here. All the animation's still going. It all still exists. But now, instead of having to deal with all 6 of them, I only have to deal with this one layer.
That's so nice.
My life a lot easier.
And now we're dealing with mix 2.
Yes. One thing I am going to do, just to another small housekeeping thing here.
Tell us.
I'm going to add markers just so I know where things start and stop, or where they loop from. Because once I started hiding that, I can't see the keyframes anymore, so I have no reference point.
Okay.
So with the timeline selected, I'm going to hit the star key on the number pad, which brings up a marker.
Oh, okay.
If you double click it, you can start typing into it. So I've got my start and I've got my loop. Again, just making your life easier, have as many different icons visible for you.
That's really smart, because otherwise you'd spend some time guessing there in the next one.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do here is hit T. T is slightly less intuitive than the other ones. T is for opacity. Think of it as like transparency. So that kind of makes more sense. So what I'm going to do is when the lid comes down, I'm going to turn the transparency all the way off so the one below it is visible.
Okay.
So again, what I'm probably going to do here is set where the lid comes down. So I just know that at a glance without having to go hunt for the keyframe.
Lid down. I love these little messages to yourself, little notes to self. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is. So from here, I'm not planning on animating between them. Usually when you have two different keyframes with different values, it automatically kind of tweens in between them. But what I want it to do is kind of snap from one to the other. So you can either right click and do toggle hold keyframe, or my shortcut here is Control Alt. And you hold that down, it turns it into this hard edge, which if I get rid of this, instead of like gradually going from 1 to 0, as soon as it gets to the next keyframe, it's just going to turn off. It's just going to jump to it.
Oh, nice.
Which is what I want.
Okay. That way you don't have to keyframe 100% right before it. That's really smart. That's another really cool trick.
So as soon as it goes down, and then I need my next mixture to be visible. So I'm just going to shy away these guys again.
Okay.
The masks, because I don't need them.
The masks, as a reminder for anyone, they're staying put because they're just helping all the elements look like they're submerged. So there's no need to animate them because they need to stay put so that the icons actually look like they're bobbing in and out during the animation.
Yes. Very well put. There we are. So if we have a look now, one goes in, the other is out.
Magic. How did those appear? Oh, they're just revealed.
Yeah, because the layer above has full opacity, and then at that point the opacity just turns off. And then we've got the one below
underneath. Got it. Okay.
Feel like the masked magician. I'm revealing all the secrets.
You are.
So then we've got this one underneath. But this isn't moving because we haven't actually added our
loop out
scripts to it. Yeah. Exactly. So we need to do that quickly. So you've got loop out, loop in. Loop in does the exact same thing as loop out, but before in the timeline rather than
after. So it animates before wherever you drop the keyframe.
Yes, so it fills this fills in behind, this fills in front.
Cool. Simple enough.
Yeah. So
okay.
Drop that in there.
And you're adding the loops for the loop out right where you want it to start up again, or before?
It doesn't matter where in place I add the loop out. Just adding it into the layer activates it on the layer. But the loop out is always going to activate after the last keyframe. After that last keyframe, it's going to loop back to the beginning.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, all dependent on whatever my last keyframe is. So that's why it's so important to match those. Otherwise, it will just jump.
Okay. Thanks for breaking it down for me. See, I had it all wrong. Okay, wonderful. So as she is adding all of that, then all this magic will come together and we'll finally be able to see the bubbling in action. Well, not the bubbling, the bobbing. Correction.
Yes.
Sorry for that self-correction there. And I want to remind everyone, if you have any questions here, we've covered a lot so far. Stormy has shown us so much. So drop your questions if you have them. Oh my gosh. It's happening.
Now it comes down and it doesn't go back to number 1, which is a problem. So
right.
We're going to do the same thing again. We're basically just going to, I need to reveal my mask.
I have one note for you. One note for you, Stormy. I think maybe the middle of the snake isn't moving. Is it? Or is it just subtle and I can't see it at this scale?
Oh.
I just don't want you to get too far without it if that's the case.
No, thank you. You can end up forgetting these things, you know? That's
It might just be subtle. I can't tell.
No, you're right. Oh my goodness.
You know, that's why I'm here. I'm paying attention. I'm making sure I keep this whole animation on track, baby.
Thank you. It's hard, guys. Animating and talking is difficult.
It's hard. It's really hard. There's a lot going on here. So no sweat.
Right. No,
there it is.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
now so quick.
Alrighty. Now Control-Shift-C. I'm gonna call this Mix 2 to make my new composition.
Oh my gosh, look how tidy that is. That is so satisfying.
So now we've got that. So I'm going to need to add another marker for myself as to when the next one comes down. How far in between are these? They're 10 frames apart, so this is going to be about here. Yes. Hit my star key.
Make a little note for yourself.
Down. And so I've just hit page up. Page up and page down allows you to jump forwards or backwards a frame. If you hold down shift, you jump 10 frames, so that's usually like my marker when I'm moving about.
Sometimes you need to be more precise.
Yeah, you can't scrub through the timeline with the arrow keys. I've done that in the early days. Don't do it. You will end up moving your animation instead. Learn from my mistakes.
So you added another one of those points. What's the name of it again?
A keyframe to have the transparency go back to 0. But now there's nothing in there, so I need to go back to mix 1 and bring the opacity back to 100. So
how are you going to do that?
So we go back to the original opacity layer. I'm just going to hit 100. So now when it opens back up, we've got green. If I hide that, you should be able to see it just flips in between the two of them.
That is so cool. I feel like you did that so smoothly. And like in the minimum amount of keyframes. I'm very impressed by that because there are ways to do it where you would add, more points than you need. So this is really smart.
Yeah, thank you. And so far it seems to loop pretty well. Well, remember the math that's involved here is, even though I'm not at the beginning of the timeline, I know that the things inside the pot loop at 1 second. So providing that I'm at a whole second by the end of it, that by the time we get back to the beginning, it should loop fine.
Okay.
Which it does.
Yes.
So that's the basic movement done. So we can start adding a couple of flourishes now, but there's our basic pot. We
have a little bit over half an hour, just a touch. So it's up to you now what you want to add. I know there was a lot of things that we were questioning. We have the bubble elements. There was like the wave elements to the masks. The squeeze effect, I think you call it, or the bounce for the cauldron.
Yes, the squash and stretch.
Yeah, squeeze. Squash and stretch. Similar, Similar, you guys.
Very similar.
Okay, so what are you thinking? What's the thing that you want to tackle? I feel like they all involve a lot of different techniques. So anything that you show us, I'm sure, will be really valuable.
I'm going to have a look at the squash and stretch. Because
I had a feeling you were going to pick that one because it's been on your mind. I feel like it's been in your heart.
Yes. So I'm gonna have a little bit of a play around here, but the first thing I need to do is remove this constrained proportions, because if I start messing with things, the whole thing is gonna move, and really I just want it to move from the top down, so I want it to do that.
Got it. So... Okay, and that is at the point where the lid drops in.
Yeah, so it's going to be a reaction to the lid hitting it, so we kind of want it to react after, which means that we might have to extend the lid movement. I don't know. We'll see.
I was just thinking that, but I'm like, I mean, it's kind of an illusion, so I don't know how technically you have to be with it.
Yeah, we'll see. Actually, what I might need to... No, I think that's going to be fine. So we're going to move it and then we're going to refine it. So we'll see, because it needs to... See, it's squeezing, but it's taking too long to come back up. So I think...
You have to match the velocity, maybe?
Yeah. We're going to have to mess with the timing a little bit.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is just isolate this part of the timeline, just moving it with B and N to move the in and the out point. And I'm just going to have a look.
Because you want to be able to play it a few times, right?
Yeah, exactly. You are going to be playing things back quite a lot.
Yeah, but you'll be happy while you do it because you're like, it's working. Because Stormy taught me well.
So this is the movement at the moment. And it's okay. It's a little too quick and it's not reactionary enough. A lot of... It's squashing and stretching for a reason, right? So
we need it to feel realistic in a sense. Ooh, that's better, I think.
That's a little bit better, but now we have the problem that
you get that
our
weird mask. Yeah.
So what we might do is have the lid stay down just a little bit longer. I'm going to copy and paste that.
Yeah, that was smart, Stormy. By holding it for a beat, we managed to hide the mix from showing too soon.
But I'm wondering now, do I want...
Anything could happen here, you guys.
I might move this so it goes down. It may not work, in which case I can just backtrack, but I'm not sure.
Moving the lid to go down a little harder, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, slam it further. Okay.
So that...
Yes,
that works a lot better.
That works, yeah.
So what I've done is I've added an extra keyframe, because where it was originally, it doesn't make too much sense. It has to be reacting to the force of it coming down on top of it. Let me have a quick look at the graph editor. No, I'm still quite happy with the speed that's going, really.
I think it looks like it's reacting. I feel like it's has a realistic movement.
Yeah, so now it's reacting to that, which is good. And the benefit of it animating at this point means that I can loop out on the scale and it should work fine. But now our lid down point has changed, so I need to move that as well.
Move your node. Okay.
But no matter what I've done here, that's going to be repeated thanks to our loop out. So I don't have to copy and add extra frames down the road. The script's done that for me.
That's the benefit of the script, right? If you copy and pasted this position, now when you changed it, you'd have to go back and make sure you applied it everywhere. But that script is really alleviating any repetition.
Yes, exactly. And I think maybe just to make my life a bit easier, I'm going to add... I'm
excited here. I'm excited to watch this all through, you guys.
the lid's going to be in a different place over here as well, isn't it? So it's here now.
Dun dun dun. Okay.
So yep, that's down. So if I loop out now, it's just going to continue looping, and that's not really what didn't finish the script properly. It has a helpful bright orange bar when you've not finished the script properly, so
that way you don't get too far in.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, it's not working. Hold on a minute. So see, right now it's just gonna continue bouncing because I haven't stopped it. I want it to repeat from maybe here, I guess. That's actually no, is it? It's not there, is it? No,
From the
it
beginning,
is.
no? Is it?
No, it's no, that is.
Oh,
Yeah,
because
that is it.
it's up. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So let's have a quick look at that. There we go.
Perfect.
Wonderful. So we can go back to the start and just kind of re-evaluate and have a look here. Yep.
So
It
satisfying.
bounces, right?
Yes, I think that adds a lot of like, it makes it feel a little more alive.
There's other things we can add here as well, which are quite fun.
Dun, dun,
Oh,
dun.
hold on a minute. I think I've just noticed something.
Is it like going past the cauldron for a second?
No, it's not even that. It is... Aha. So if you have a look here, can you see this green line? These squares are our keyframes. From this screen, this square, it's supposed to go back up again, but it doesn't. It goes down, which is making it jerk a little bit. Now, sometimes that happens when you add an easy ease in and the actual path kind of just moves. To fix this, you kind of hit the pen tool, which is shortcut G, and if you click on it, see that disappears now. It's kind of like like when you're in Illustrator and something's got a curve that you don't like and you reshape it. So now if I go over it, it's not jerking down now, it's going to go back up. It's that path
it had like a little extra path to it that you didn't want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which has been smoothed out now, which I'm a lot happier about.
And smoothed out in all locations, which is great.
Yes. Great. All right, so the other thing I wanted to show, which is a nice little flourish. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes it isn't. On the ghost one, I think we removed it, but you can add something called a motion blur. So since the cauldron lid is moving quite quickly, I thought it might be a nice element to have. So you can see already. Nice. If you click this in to enable it, then this icon here, click on it and it activates the motion blur. If you click on it and it doesn't do anything, it's probably because this one hasn't been activated. If you can't see this, you need to toggle the switch down at the bottom of your screen, because you're either going to see the track mat and the modes, or you're going to see these icons. So
wow, very handy. I feel like that is a very simple add-on that really takes it to a whole other level. Otherwise you'd have to like be adding blur effects and all sorts of stuff. That's really cool.
So there we go.
Amazing, perfectly cute and gross all at once.
Just tweaking some of the movement, just because I still feel like can smooth that out. Doesn't necessarily need to be perfect, but you kind of get the idea. The motion blur is quite a nice touch as well.
It is. I really enjoy it.
Shall we try and add some bubbles if we have some time?
Please let's add some bubbles so I can feel like it's like oozing.
So do I want to do this inside? Yeah, I probably want to do this inside, don't I?
Without the bubbles, it's not boiling, and then it's technically gazpacho.
Oh, well, there you go. So I have been told.
We have to add a bubble or two to make it a hot, bubbly soup.
So I have gone to select another shape. Just like in Illustrator, once you do that, you've got your fill, you've got your stroke, and you've got your stroke line thickness. So I'm just gonna mess around with that to see what I like the look of.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of like the look of that. Think this maybe can go a little bit.
Oh yeah, then it feels like it's part of it. Yeah. And then when it goes off around it or wherever, it'll retain the color.
Yeah, so now what I'm going to do is, do I want to move it from here? I might. I might want to move it from here. Let's...
You're deciding on the anchor point?
Yeah, I've not decided whether I want to change its shape here or if I want to give it a mask. I mean, either way works, really.
Right. That's what we're learning a lot here in After Effects, that there's multiple ways to accomplish anything, and then it comes down to how you would prefer to build it out. Because that's just become that makes a lot of the decisions for you. And if you've been watching this stream for a minute now, you'll know that Stormy wants to minimize the amount of layers. That way everything works a little smoother and a little easier. And honestly, that is really smart. So she's making those calls to make sure that it's like as light as possible. What what was that feather? I'm like, what happened? Did you use it?
No, I that's it gives you the
thought about
ability to mask a feather, yeah, but I thought about it. I don't think I did.
I was just thinking about it. She wasn't gonna
just
do
thinking
it.
about it. Yeah, just thinking about it. So I think I've decided we're gonna go with making a mask. So
okay.
I'm gonna click off you, and then I'm gonna make a mask like this. Ooh.
Okay.
Yep.
Not just a rectangle like we did in the other ones.
No, not just a rectangle. Because I feel
like she wants a different look.
Yeah.
I get that. Sometimes you just want a different look, you guys.
And again, gonna toggle the switch and then turn this into a mask here. Oh no, I forgot my anchor point. Move your anchor points.
Happens to everyone. Happens to everyone I
know. So from here, what I'm thinking is that it's probably just gonna go just, you know, it's gonna be in there. It's not gonna pop, it's just gonna it's threatening to you, so you know it's hot in there, you know?
Okay.
So
ooh, I like that the effect for that mask that you did.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just have a couple of these dotted around. So if I can get one that I'm happy with, I can copy and paste it and then just kind of
move them around.
Dot it about.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see.
So our main position is here. I don't think I'm going to have it move at the same sort of... Well, I don't know. Do bubbles bubble quickly? I'm not sure.
They bubble quickly, but they also bubble randomly. You know? So I feel like they have to be at a different movement than the items because the bubbles don't have weight.
Well, you know, that might give us a chance to mess with an effect here. So there is a preset effect called... I would like to close this, please. There we go. Called wiggle. So you can wiggle the position, wiggle scale, and it kind of just randomizes a lot of the movement for you. So if you click on it, may not work in this instance, but it might be fun to have a look. So if we hit play, see, it's kind of moving on its own. It's given us a whole set of movements, really, and you can kind of tweak it here, so we can up the speed to like maybe 5. I think that's probably going to be a bit too much, but we'll see. Change the wiggle amount, hit play again. It's like, oh, here we go.
Oh, that might be like that. Is that just right? Is it slightly too fast?
It's a bit too fast, but
oh my gosh, that looks really cool. And that was just with an effect. You didn't have to go in and keyframe anything.
No, but the only problem with that is that it doesn't loop, so it's not going to have our seamless loop. Oh,
we have an amazing comment here from Jane Bradbury, which they were in here just yesterday, so thanks for coming back here to finish watching Stormy stream. Their comment is, if it's simmering, bubbles can be slower rather than a fast boil where they're popping all over. So that is good to keep in mind, is that we are probably doing a slow kind of simmer with this stew when you think about it. You think about this little fantasy world.
I think the position's a little bit too random for me. So I'm probably just going to, because it's moving left and right and everything, and so I feel
not
like
enough control.
Not enough control, but it might be good for the scale. I said scale. Why have you gone all the way over there? Scale. Did you move the rotation? Why are you moving the rotation?
It is on the rotation layer.
Is it?
Yeah. It was on the rotation.
Was I?
When you did it, it did it on, it said rotation. Or maybe I'm looking at the one above it. I'm all confused now. I don't know. I take back, what is it? Retract my statement? Redact? One of the two.
One of those two.
One of those two words.
We're gonna do this manually. Because sometimes they don't always do what you want them to do, and that's fine.
That's the thing. Once it's like a default, like it does it quickly for you, but then you have no say in what it's doing, right? So if you want to have a say on what the animation is doing, you might have to keyframe it.
Yeah, so sometimes there's no shortcut for it, and you just have to do it manually, and that's fine.
But also maybe, in your cauldron animation that you've been working on throughout the stream, maybe you like the wiggle and you were fine with it.
Yeah.
That's up to you. Oh, yeah, that looks cool.
So this guy's got a little wiggle that I approve of. So I quite like that, and maybe we have him go up and down ever so slightly as well. And if we're quite happy with that, then we can just duplicate it and stagger it around the pot.
Perfect.
So
you've done position and you've done scale.
Yes.
Okay.
Instead, we don't need to do rotation this time around. Oh. I opened my Italian keyboard. Save.
Save just in case.
You're pressing too many shortcuts, yeah.
The minute you get one error, you're like, okay, hold on. Let's make sure we're saving here. So we've done a lot of amazing work we don't want to lose. Okay.
Yes.
So
that was a little too fast for my liking, so we're gonna slow that right down.
Just by moving those little keyframes, you can change the pacing. Ooh, I like that.
Yes.
Yes, it's like got a heartbeat almost. It's like the stew is alive.
Yes.
This is the effect that we're going for, so great work here.
Loop out. Don't worry if this
gives you a warning.
Yeah, sometimes this comes up if you've got the caps lock pressed down, or if it just pauses the preview. Once you come out of it, it'll disappear. So I'm quite happy with that.
I love that.
So
I really love that, Storm.
Thank you. So let's label this first.
Bubble.
Oh no, there we go. Bubble mask.
Okay.
And then let's just duplicate and dot it around a little bit.
Perfect.
So in this instance, the null is going to be useful, because if I move the position of this guy, because I've already animated the position, it's going to add its own keyframe. So we're going to add a null layer, which it's a useful little tool. Sometimes you can animate with it itself, but this is kind of like the ultimate parent tool.
Okay.
So maybe you want to I'm going to need to let me parent you to you and then parent you to you. So now if I move this, and I can move the bubble without worrying about any of its layers starting to activate.
Of the animation movement changing. Okay.
Which is perfect. So now I can move you over here. I can change the size of you. It's not ideal because it's going to be there. And then we've got another pot there, and all I have to do is just release the parent. So it's not doing that anymore. And now we've got another one bubbling over here.
Perfect. That was a lot easier than I expected. I know my mind is blown. Joshua says another AE trick or treat I was waiting for. So thank you, Stormy, for showing us that.
My pleasure.
That's amazing. That is so cool. And the mask too. It's like I really like watching how you are building things because then I can understand how to engineer it in the same effect in my own project. So I know everyone's going home with a lot of cool treats.
I'm so happy to hear that. Let me get my anchor point back here so I can move that. So I'm just gonna do I mean, you can avoid this by just, you know, placing everything in place first and then you know, making the animation on one and then copying and pasting like we did at the very beginning. Again, this just goes to show there are so many ways.
So many ways to animate here. So flexible.
So many ways around a problem.
All right, as a heads up, we are about 10 minutes away from wrapping this whole show up. So, what are you thinking?
Well, we've got a couple. Oh, well, that one's really small. We've got a couple of bubbles in here, which I'm happy we added that in. Let's go back to the main composition and have a look at what that looks like and see what else we can add in the last 10 minutes, if anything. So we've got...
Oh, the bubbles look so good.
So the bubbles are in there.
You guys, it's so satisfying seeing this whole thing. You know, what just started as a simple sketch yesterday turn into this whole like animated piece.
So we've got that.
I love it.
Ooh, let's see if we can actually add the ripple effect for that if I can get to it in time. Just to show you, I won't be able to apply it to everything, but
we can see it once and then imagine what it would be like on all the other ones.
So we have this effect
Ripple
here
effect.
called... I'm going to need to find your mask. Where are you?
Mask.
There we go. So let's add the ripple to you. So if we increase the radius of the ripple, you can kind of see it's starting to do this now. So if I was to play it, you can kind of see it's doing its little thing here.
That was such a simple way to add a ripple. Wow, that is very, very, very satisfying.
So I'm going to change the center of the ripple because I don't want it to be all the way over there. I want it to be just above the eye. So that's going to change the way that looks now.
Oh, wow.
Having a bit of time to RAM preview it, and you can change the wave speed. I don't think it needs to bob that to go that quick. 1 might be fine. Might have a look at what 0.5 looks like.
Ooh. Yeah, now it looks like the eye is actually interacting with the wave.
Yeah.
Which is like next level animation.
So that's a pretty cool effect that you can add as well. You just hide that mask away again. So that's a really quick way to add
that looks
a little bit more depth
good.
in.
That looks so good.
So now it's rippling. So that's why we made that shape that initially, because it wasn't going to stay like this. I didn't really want it to just look like that. So maybe I can quickly add to you.
Yeah, now that you know how you want it. Oh, I love this. Everyone is so excited about this one too. Joshua, Umacorn, everyone's loving all those effects are so simple, but when used in the right situation, wow, they look amazing.
Thank you.
And here you're just adjusting all the little properties for that effect.
Don't need the height too much. Radius, there we go. The radius is just how far out it's going because this is a bigger object. So move that. Actually up there.
Lovely.
Yeah, I like that a lot more.
I like that. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to watch this back. I'm so thrilled. Now, a little reminder while Storm is adding all those ripple effects to the items still. If you have any last minute question, now is your chance. Any last minute questions on how she's put this together? We might have a chance to answer it. So get them in before we have to say goodbye. Okay.
Let's say that's probably all we have time for. So let's
Do, do,
RAM
do.
preview that. So it's going from one
Gorgeous.
to the other, and that just loops.
Can you zoom in or expand or click that little button under escape so we can open up the composition a bit? I feel like I want to see those waves happening. I don't know if it works the same here as it does in Premiere. When you click that where the squiggle is on your keyboard, I don't know if you have that. Squiggle.
Oh, the tilt. Yes.
Yes, the tilde. There we go. I never know the name of it. In Spanish, it's ñ, so that's why I don't remember. Yes, here we go. Now I can get all those little effects and see them in the green mix. Ooh, beautiful. This has been so amazing. Do you have any other last minute effects or tips that you have? We have about, 4 minutes left here to discuss. I don't know if there's any other effects that you were thinking of applying or anything like that.
I don't think so. I mean, that I really just barely scratched the surface with this one. With some of the effects you could do, we could add shadows and things like that in the same way that we did the mask and the parenting tool. We could create a shadow that is masked to the part that comes down, and then there is so much you can do. You can make the simple animation quite interesting complex, just by adding little bits here, little bits there, because we've done no more than just moved the rotation, the scale, and the position of a lot of these things,
but just in the perfect composition, right? Like, yeah, when they all come together, it makes a way more sense and really comes to life. Well, you have shown us so many amazing different ways to use After Effects to bring this to life. I know I feel so rewarded being able to see this little sketch come into its own. I hope that you plan on sharing it whenever you get a chance to fine tune all the little remaining bits, sharing it on Behance.
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to adding some extras.
Yes. Okay. So this is a reminder for any one of you guys who are watching us. If you want to watch all of Storm's other streams, be sure to follow her over on her Behance and on Instagram so that you can catch her streams. She does this stuff all the time, you guys. She's illustrating and animating all the time over on Behance. So if you enjoyed this stream with Storm, which I know I did, be sure to follow her over there. And I guess that's all I have for you, my friends. This has been an amazing stream. Let's see. Okay. So thank you so much. And today we learned so much. You covered the how to import from Illustrator to After Effects, which I think is really underrated and some people just assume you know, and not everybody knows. You covered expressions, and you even showed us how to use some effects. So that was amazing. We learned so much in this stream. Adobe Live, everyone, will be back tomorrow with our evangelist for a full day of masterclasses, followed by a new episode of Office Hours with Nick Longo and Andrew Hockrattle. Now go ahead and follow Storm everywhere so you can check out her work. And remember to hit subscribe to our Adobe Live channel if you enjoyed this stream. It was so fun to be here. Thanks so much, everyone. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
la mort, moins que la solitude.